How can you ask people to come on this journey unless you enable them to be successful on it? That would be like me saying to you, like, "Hey, I want you to sail across an ocean, but you've never sailed before." Oh my gosh, well, but yeah, but we're giving you a sailboat. We're giving you like the tool, but you don't necessarily know how to navigate it. You don't know what you're expecting.
They keep telling us that it's all over for HR. The age of AI is upon us, and that means HR should be prepared to be decimated. We reject that message. The future of HR won't be handed to us. Instead, it'll be defined by those ready to experiment, adopt, and adapt. Future Proof HR invites these builders to share what they're trying, how it's going, what they've learned, and what's next. We are committed to arming HR with the AI insights to not just survive, but to thrive. Welcome to the Future Proof HR podcast, where we explore how forward thinking HR leaders are preparing for disruption and redefining what it means to lead people in a changing world. I'm your host, Thomas Kunjappu, CEO of Cleary. Now, today's guest is Lauren Tropeano, the Chief People Officer at Docebo, a global AI-first learning platform supporting HR and L&D teams around the world. With 1,000 employees across North America and EMEA, Lauren is helping lead Docebo's transformation from the inside out, translating product ambition into internal people strategy. Through a company-wide AI academy, intentional mindset work, and L&D experimentation, she's helping move the org to unlock innovation, one team at a time. Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Thomas. So excited to be here and talk all things AI with you.
Absolutely. Give us some context about Docebo, the product, the company, because I think that's going to be very relevant to our conversation today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Docebo is a global company, like you just mentioned. We have about 1,000 employees. We are a leader in AI first learning, and we provide a multi-use platform to companies of all sizes, enterprise businesses, as well as more mid-market businesses that help organizations unlock learning and endless potential in their employee bases. And yeah, we've been around for about 20 years. And we are just so excited about what we've got going on this AI horizon right now. We're really leading the charge in the industry on modernizing learning and making sure that we're a leader in this space right now as companies are really trying to meet the mandate of how to bring AI and up level all of their employees to grow and learn in this new way. So yeah, that's a little bit about Docebo.
That's exciting. So I want to talk a lot about what you're doing and leading by example internally. But before we get into that, I'd like to just ask you to uh, opine or share your thoughts on the what is the transformation, what is happening with learning in the workplace more broadly, and how should companies be looking to respond?
Learning's changing a lot. I mean, the concept is still there, is such as we need humans, we need our people to grow skill sets and evolve, but the modalities with which people are learning are changing. And that's very similar to how people consume content, right? Like they don't really read a newspaper anymore. Some people do, but they consume content on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on all different types of platforms. The days of sort of going to a physical training or a classroom setting, those again, those forums do still exist, but there are many more modalities and much more of a focus on personalization and micro learning and things like that. So we are building tools and evolving our product every single day with all of our new product releases to really make sure that we're meeting the needs of the modern learner and that we are both also del able to deliver content and a technology and tools that unlock that learning in an expedient way, as well as also making sure that we're supporting L&D professionals as they evolve the function and how content gets created and authored and all of that as well. So I think personalization's like king right now in this conversation, and AI is helping us unlock a lot of that, which is really exciting.
So let's zoom out even further. Then, what would you say makes this AI transformation or this kind of industry shift feel different from others you've been involved with in the past?
As an HR person, as a people person, we've been managing changes, major transformations and changes for a long, long time, right? You think about the journey to the private cloud or even like COVID, right? That was like a massive transformation in how companies worked, right? It's like overnight
Mhm.
organizations were in offices and then everybody had to be in a distributed format. That's like wild, right? But the interesting thing about this transformation is I think it's so exciting because we have no idea what's around the next corner because the technology is changing so much and it is so fluid. And I think that's both a little it's both exciting but a little bit scary. I also think companies have the opportunity to author, what this next step means for them and how they actually ingest this period of change and all of that. So I think it's a more exciting time to be in a transformation because it's not specific to a business strategy, but it is actually the next horizon of how work itself is changing. And it is pervasive across all industries and all environments. I was just reading an article where it was like interior designers are using this, electricians are using it, chefs are
Okay.
using it for recipes. It's not just like a corporate thing. AI is really changing the way that people like do their work, and I think that's so exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like more foundational, right?
Yeah.
About so it's there's promise and peril. It's unsettling, but also there's opportunity,
Yeah.
and then you're swimming in it. So if you're uh, thinking about Docebo, when we're talking previously, there's a this concept of an AI first org and orienting the organization in that way. Would you say that's you guys? And if so, what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. We've really adopted that moniker internally. And I think you need to name that for your organization because it really I think sets a tone of we really want to be embedding this into our operating system and our mindsets and just how we work. We want to be AI first, meaning that we are not only obviously building products in this space, but we ourselves are operating in such a way that's our orientation. It is not just like an afterthought or just some type of a tool that we use. It is like in the rhythm of our business. So yeah, I think it's important to really be explicit with that as you're trying to influence organizational change. And we have, yeah.
So let's go more in depth and internally. What does that mean at Docebo from a people, process, systems, reinforcement, maybe L&D perspective to have that posture? And if you were talking to your peers about maybe creating a shift like that for their organization, or maybe there's the demand for that from the executive team or the CEO or board, and you're trying to figure out a strategy to shift in that direction. What are the kind of the levers that you have and the activities that you might
Yeah.
put in place to move in that direction?
Yep. It first starts with your vision, which our vision is very embedded in being an AI first technology and an AI first learning company that unlocks, that value. So it starts with your vision and then everything I think stems from that. What that practically means is you really have to be overt with, again, talking about this all the time. You have to you have to understand also by doing discovery, which is something that we've done, where are you on the spectrum of AI awareness or adoption or innovation so that you can understand your starting point, right? So one thing that we did was we actually embedded in our mid-year performance reviews, we embedded a question which is not meant to be like a rating or anything, but it was more of a calibration exercise for us to understand where we are as a company. We just created a very simple 4-point scale from AI aware to AI innovator, and we asked managers and employees to rate themselves on, where do you think you are on this spectrum? And that was really meant to inform where are we today? Where do we hope to be? Obviously, we hope to be more on the innovator side, but it's really important for us to understand the current place of the company so that we can help bring people along. And so it starts with just again, like just doing a diagnosis of where are you? Where do you want to be? And then helping people come along the journey and also thinking about that journey as something that is really exciting and an invitation to learn and experiment and do all those things as opposed to it being for otherwise like for a lot of people might be like, oh, this is scary, this is new, this is temporary, those types of things. And we really wanted to be explicit around how we're inviting people to come on this journey with us and experiment. One of the other things that I would say is really important to the enablement of this sort of posture within a company is that you have to have a really great set of tools that are available to people, and you have to give them almost like a marketplace to choose from, right? So most companies have ChatGPT or they have Gemini, depending upon what tools and technologies are available. But we have a phenomenal internal IT department, and they have done a great job in partnering with all areas of the business to really understand like what are the business practices that you're constantly working on? Like how are your business operations, how can they be made more efficient through AI tools? Or what are the things that you're spending a lot of time on so that they can help to recommend for us some different tools or technologies that can help make the adoption of AI really easy because it adds a lot of value for our people. And that partnership with IT has been huge for us as we bring in like a myriad of really exciting apps for people to just experiment and play around with.
I think that's an interesting point because I know you're not calling it a mandate, but by having a vision and kind of really pushing this new way of working for everyone, for it to relate for anyone in their day to day, if there's friction between what they're hearing at that messaging level
Mhm.
and what they actually need to do, which is
Yes.
a bunch of whatever it is, a bunch of manual tasks or a bunch of collaboration that needs to happen. If you're able to connect specific work tasks that can transform, that'll help move the ball forward. But a key piece of that is having a technology forward partners,
Yes.
maybe your IT org, who can actually help you connect those dots. But IT can't help you unless the folks on the ground know what are the potential pain points that can be solved better with AI.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that partnership is so important because, we're able to articulate the rhythm of our work and our business, and then they're able to really provide us with, oh, hey, there's this tool. How would that potentially help us? So they're like almost like an internal consultancy for us that brings us some interesting, like new opportunities to experiment with. And in most functions as well, we have an AI champion, or a small team of people who are like AI champions who, are those early adopters or those first movers within the organization that are really closely partnering with their IT partner to provide that guidance or be the one to like be in a pilot or something like that. And so those people are really helping to lead the charge, provide those like technical requirements and things like that, and then ultimately be the voice within the function that can help bring people along. And I think that's an important piece too, because you do need those champions in any type of a change that are going to have that credibility within the function versus, to your point, like feeling like something was imposed upon you because people don't like that.
And just because get very practical. So these champions, are they official? Do they have badges, or do they have dinner parties, or is it completely organic and natural and it happens or doesn't in different parts of the org?
Mm.
Because I'm really trying to get practical, because if you're really trying to make this change happen, how much is it bottom up versus like top down, do you
Mhm.
feel?
Yeah. I would say we've been very lucky in that it feels quite grassroots. Like, we didn't have to actually impose all of this structure around it just because there was a lot of excitement about it, and I think that partly comes from the products that we're building and the tremendous value that we see, like, our customers being able to unlock, like, through this, so people are, like, just also excited to utilize these things themselves. But, yeah, I would say it's not a super formalized effort. I mean, in different organizations, I'm sure that there are a lot more, like, formal, like, committees and things like that. We do have a group, like a consortium type group that's coming together to share best practices and things like that, but for the most part, it feels grassroots, and it's mostly voluntary in the sense of if someone's really excited about it, then they can get involved, and that I think is the best way to do it because it really again, it's like a self-led thing, and that energy, it's like it's contagious. You can't really create that unless someone is passionate about this topic themselves. Those are the people that I think are the best fit for these types of things.
So tell me more about something that I think is more explicit, which you've invested in, which is the internal AI Academy.
Yeah.
And in some ways, like the baseline, or you want to have everyone to get to this level of learning. Tell me more about how that came about, what it is, outcomes.
Absolutely. So my peer on our executive team, we have a chief learning officer because we are a learning company. And so that's a unique role that not every company has, but we do have the benefit of having one here at Docebo. So he is my peer. And he and I were talking about, well, okay, like, we really want to lead this company through this transformation. how can we make sure that what we're asking of people is really practical and approachable, and also that everyone is starting from a common foundation? We put our heads together and we came up with this idea of this AI academy, which is a homegrown academy. And what we did was we took someone who was previously in a product kind of marketing role and brought him over to the learning function. And he was then tasked with, let's create this essentially like this internal product that we can give to all of our employees to start them on this journey. And that would give us the peace of mind that everybody in our company is essentially sort of like de facto like certified in understanding these like AI foundations. And to be honest, we're still building it. We launched the first, I would say like the first module or the first iteration of it this summer, and it's been going great. We had very high completion rates and people really loved it. Essentially what it is we went out to the organization, we asked them, like, "What would you like to know about AI? Like, where are you? Like, what things are you afraid of? What do you feel like you need to know in order to talk to customers, in order to talk to your peers, in order to adopt this in a really thoughtful way?" And so we got all that information, and then that team was able to sort of pull together this academy, which covers things like AI language, right? Like, what are some of these technical terms that are being used? What do we practically mean about that? What are some best practices in terms of using AI responsibly? Like, what information should we share with LLMs? What shouldn't we share? And how do we actually use it? Meaning that we have like internal licenses here at Docebo that can help us protect our proprietary information. You shouldn't just go out on your personal account, like governance, things like that. And then also just really good prompting or how to interact with it. And then also how to sort of apply your human logic to make sure that whatever you're getting out of the AI is actually makes good sense, right? Because we know sometimes AI gives us answers to things, but sometimes they don't always make the most sense. So we still do have to apply our common logic. So those are just like some of the things. But yeah, it's a journey. And we thought, hey, we can't expect people to like come on this journey, but not enable them, especially as a learning company. This was something that was developed just this year and just rolled out, and people have loved it so far. So continuing to build it upon that.
This has been a fantastic conversation so far. If you haven't already done so, make sure to join our community. We're building a network of the most forward-thinking HR and people operations professionals who are defining the future. I will personally be sharing news and ideas around how we can all thrive in the age of AI. You can find it at gocleary.com/Cleary-community. Now back to the show. So one of the points I think you've subtly made is that because Docebo is a learning company and an AI first company, and the product does that, obviously you have a lot of talent who is naturally excited and working in the world of AI
Hmm.
like every day.
Yep.
And yet it might vary like by department and in context and experience. So you're doing this AI academy to kind of bring people at least to some baseline together and share in that learning journey as you point the direction forward and be aligned in the path forward. Has that impacted your point of view on onboarding or recruiting for the
Mm.
organization as well?
Yeah. On the point of recruiting, and I'll cover onboarding in a moment. To the point of recruiting, we actually built in specific questions into our initial screens to screen for AI competency. Now, we're not looking for AI expertise in all roles, but we want curiosity and some competency or awareness for every single person that we hire at Docebo. So it could be like a simple question like, tell me about how you use AI in your everyday, work, or how have you used AI to improve your efficiency or the outcomes or impact of a specific deliverable or project or something like that. So for us, it's just testing for curiosity around the topic, experimentation around the topic, some of those characteristics that we are really looking to really build upon here. So that's how we've just again started to, very, very simply and very tactically just infuse that into the screen. Now, if someone is like a deer in the headlights, it's okay. Maybe they're not the most competent in this area, and we should just step back and reflect, is this a good fit for the very strong culture we're trying to build around AI literacy and like competency and all of that, and really like a curiosity for this topic. So it's not again, like a binary yes or no, but it is something that helps to give us some signals, hopefully positive signals that they'll be able to adapt to the strong like AI learning culture that we're building right now.
I love that as a baby step. Before we go on to onboarding,
Mhm.
I just want to reflect on that because you're, I think in some ways having an admission that where we don't know where this is going to go, what kind of specific skill set, tools, process you're going to need. But given the prevalence of this technology globally for a few years now, we want you to at least be curious about it and showcase that you're using it personally in some kind of way.
Yeah,
And that's where you started. I wonder if the way this evolves is that for each function, if you're in customer support or in sales or in marketing, there's going to be much more specific
sure.
expectations over time that
Yes,
start to become like industry wide, if not credentials, but at least signs of competence. Because it would be like if you're asking someone in finance, like, do you know QuickBooks or some other kind of tool versus doing pen and paper for doing all of
for
your
sure. Yeah.
corporate finance? It's not something you even ask after a while. It's just a very baseline expectation.
Yeah.
But we are, I think this is a sign that we're at the nascent stage of the technology that on the recruiting front, we're really just trying to filter for curiosity.
And also maybe even take that a step further, like a point of view. Like, oh, I do use this and I also use it in my personal life and I'm excited for these use cases and it helps to give us a little bit of a window into how excited the individual is about embracing this technology in this moment in terms of transforming themselves as an individual as well as a professional. And that is again when you think about a characteristic of an employee or a trait of an employee versus like a skill, which is like when you use that when like that QuickBooks analogy, it's like anyone can learn a software per se, but there's like an inherent curiosity about this space. That's what we're looking for more so than like a skill that we could teach, which would be like the difference between like a software versus again, like an inherent curiosity about something that's really new. Yeah.
I was just thinking back to maybe the 80s when that personal computing and
Oh, yeah.
software do something like finance and it's like a new thing. And if you're in that world and you've experienced that, it's a
Well, you
marker
have
for
to
being part
evolve
of the
like your whole way
yeah,
of
but it's a marker for that curiosity that you're talking
yeah,
about in that
exactly.
different eras. But eventually it just becomes
The norm.
there's no jobs available unless you're
Right.
doing that. But
Yeah,
if that's where
totally.
the technology evolves.
Yeah.
But let me ask you more about mindset because this is interesting. Because you said in the survey you get a sense of like where people are at in terms of their AI adoption, and then you're leveraging other surveys and just inputs to understand what you want to put in terms of the AI Academy. But if you zoom that out to just the broader population or just think about any industry. Earlier, you were telling me about how the applications are endless, right? Like it's in personal life, it's not just corporate, it's all types of industries across the board.
Mhm.
And yet, the things that you mentioned, like people feel like it's scary, it's unsettling. I don't know if this is just the flavor of the day. There's
Mhm.
been other trends that have come up and down. This too shall pass. My industry or my
Yeah.
job is
Yeah.
safe slash it's the same. Or there's like a not quite that mindset of it doesn't apply here, maybe. I just want to stress test this with you, right? Is this mindset, do you think, globally applicable? Right. I know what we've been talking about is Docebo and like what you're
Mhm.
seeing there, but if we're gonna look at any industry and like any employee and or CHROs who are in vastly different kinds of industries and company sizes and locations, like what are some of the boundaries of or are there any, right? Or is this generally speaking globally useful thinking, do you think?
I do think it's globally useful. And again, there's a lot of layers and nuance to that depending upon what line of work you do. Certainly, if you're a technologist, or you're developing these types of products, your purview for this type of work or the level of depth that you'll need to go into is way different than someone who may be experimenting with this in their personal life and doesn't yet have any opportunity even to utilize this in their professional capacity because it's still nascent. But I think that this is again, as I mentioned, like, I think it's, like, a fundamental shift in how we are working as people. It's not it's like a new tech it's like the internet, like, it's just like, everything's just done online now. It's like the new way of doing things. How
Mhm.
that gets espoused in different roles or different industries, I think we will see over the next coming years, and I think it's going to rapidly iterate and be adopted, but I do think that this is one of those moments where it's pretty sticky. I think this is a new way of working, and I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think that this is gonna go analog anytime soon, or that we're going to move away from this. But I do think there will be, again, degrees of adoption and degrees of relevance based on the type of work that you do. Even the most human centered jobs, physicians and doctors and therapists and people who are doing deeply like humanly connected work are using AI in different capacities, not maybe necessarily for all dimensions of their work, but certainly as a sidekick to help unlock
Right.
research and productivity and writing and like those types of things too. So I think there's like universal application.
I think that's right. Yeah, for doctors, even like all these examples that you're saying, like it's just gonna be, yeah, you're just gonna, it's got to be your psyche if you want to be,
Mhm.
well, both efficient but also accurate or better at your job. So does that mean, if I was translating that specifically, does it make sense for every academy to have some version, or so every company to have some version of an AI academy,
I
or
think
like when
so.
would it not?
I think so because how can you ask people to come on this journey unless you enable them to be successful on it? That would be like me saying to you, like, "Hey, I want you to sail across an ocean, but you've never sailed before." Oh my gosh, well, but yeah, but we're giving you a sailboat. We're giving you like the tool, but you don't necessarily know how to navigate it. You don't know what you're expecting. Like the waters, that's a little bit of an interesting analogy, but it's quite similar. It's like you can give people the technology, but you have to help them learn it and get educated and comfortable in that like new dimension as well. So I think it's incumbent upon organizations to actually set their people up for success and not just sort of throw them into the deep end of, "Oh, just figure it out," type thing. And I do know organizations are doing that, and it's like a sink or swim. Well, if people can't get on board, then they maybe don't belong here. And I feel that's a bit harsh for people because this is a new, you just made that analogy. It's like this is a new way of working for many, many people. And I think it's incumbent upon us to enable that and enable it in a way that feels safe and fun and, like, exploratory as opposed to punitive or forced or those types of things. That really makes an impression on people favorably or unfavorably.
That's interesting because that you mentioned that, because I'm connecting the dot between that and the concept of return to office being, for many companies, being like an implicit way to do a round of layoffs when you're not actually trying to announce that, but you're just trying to
Mm,
come up with some policies that make it effectively sink or swim, or just change things up on people pretty quickly and then
mhm,
expect attrition and call it good attrition. But there's a similar thing here, right? So we're an AI first company. All right, here's all the tools, go nuts, right? And then you're gonna have different levels of success with that, as from a learning development background. So let's talk about the HR department a bit itself. So actually, first of all, just within Docebo, as you enabled the AI Academy, as well as just everything that you're seeing in terms of demand shift from your organization, from the employees to your organization in HR, what is different, if anything? Is does your function start to feel different? Are people's day to day starting to feel different?
mhm.
How is that
Well,
changing?
we're on our own transformation journey, right? So, like, there's the company. So, actually, let me step back even further. There's the industry that's transforming. There's the company that's transforming to support the industry or to even lead the industry. And then there's the different functions within a company that need to evolve and grow to support the company's transformations. So we, as a people team, are also going through this journey. And I would be remiss if I said, "Oh yeah, we've got it all figured out," because we absolutely don't. And that is both I think, like, very real, and also it's still exciting because we're still writing this story. Because again, a lot of this is evolving. What I can say that we are doing is we use an OKR kind of methodology for goals and things like that here at Docebo. One of the OKRs that we have each quarter is to have everybody on the HR team, like, adopting some type of AI rhythm into their work, right? To either unlock efficiency or unlock, again, some form of impact in their role. And so again, that goes back to
By the way,
just
Lauren, this is global, right? You're not talking about the HR team. This concept of unlocking some kind of efficiency with an OKR.
yes, yeah, so that is like a global ask, but specific to the people team, I have asked each person on my team, and I think it's important to just highlight that this isn't like an ask of the HR team because often it is assumed that these types of things are happening in technology teams only, that G&A doesn't do this stuff or people teams don't do this stuff. But we need to be explicit users of this technology and like adopters so that we can lead the charge again within this change for the company. So yes, we are trying to find all different types of opportunities. Like it could be something as simple as like my TA team, like we had a problem with not problem, but like a challenge, I would say, with people taking comprehensive notes in interviews. So it's okay, let's just get them a sidekick so that we can get higher quality notes that then can give us insights into the interview outcomes, right? That's a very sort of common use case, but it's just
Mhm.
something that we were adopting. Or how do we how can we make sure that our like people ops team that answers like employee inquiries and things like they're not answering the same question over and over again. We're actually using an enterprise wide tool that we use Glean that can help serve up information for people through a simple just question. And we actually don't even need a human interacting in that environment, right? So there's very, again, nascent business cases that are coming up. But I think the biggest thing is like just inviting people to think about this as like, how do we build this into our workflow? So that's one thing that we're doing that has, I think, like really signaled a shift in how we work as an HR team, as a people team. And then beyond that, it's like, how do we really, again, think about enabling the organization on this journey? And it's not just like in the traditional sense of like, how do we use AI, but like, how do we lead an AI first organization, right? What is our posture or like our point of view on employees using AI to write white papers or things like that, right? Because I don't know, back even just a few years ago, it was like it was taboo somewhat to use AI to author like pieces of work and then call it your own or things like that. But it's
Mm.
like, how do we actually think about developing a point of view around this? And then also what are those skills and competencies that we believe are really important for this like modern leader in this type of environment to have? So there's a lot of different ways that we are thinking about this and trying to adjust and evolve our HR team, but it's still definitely a work in progress for sure.
I love that concept of embedding the projects into the rhythm of your planning process or existing
Mhm.
process. In this case, there's like a quarterly OKR rhythm, and you're just forcing everyone to stop and reflect and say, okay, what am I going to be doing in this next quarter that's aligned with this particular pillar? It's a very practical way of translating the vision
Yeah,
into
into
something that
action.
gets into action throughout the organization. And great example on governance issues that just keep cropping up across the board,
Mhm,
which is I think one of those things. I think these subtle items where the people team might be asked to do it's the I think I hear constantly the more to do more with less. And that's one of those another one of those subtle things of, oh, here's another more that
mhm.
like maybe you weren't handling before. Sticking with the people team, the HR function, how do you think budgets are evolving in response to the AI era?
Mhm.
Because a naive CFO might say, everything that is not revenue generating, we want to be as efficient as possible. Let's cut. And really look, now we have AI tooling for everything to just enable everything from just invoices to payroll to just all
Mhm.
the administrative work to just everything that we need to do there. And so we can be ever leaner than ever before. Because this goes into the fundamental thrust of what we like to talk about here is what is the opposing view to that? It's like how do we future proof HR as a function
Yeah.
in response to that kind of thinking, which I think it's going to be more and more pervasive.
Mhm. I have a couple thoughts on this. The first is with any transformation, you're typically trying to build something that's a bit more future proof while still running a highly functioning business. So it's that analogy of changing the tires on a bus while you're driving on the highway. It's hard to do. So I think the maybe the naive, dare I call it, like point of view that, oh, like, okay, we now have AI, so that can just like cut tons of money out of our budget. I feel like that's a bit dangerous of a point of view because I still think AI is a great enabler, but you still need human being and employees to guide that AI or to inform that AI or even build process around things that are being automated and to transfer knowledge and things like that. So I think it's it would be naive to think that it could be like a light switch that you turn off and then you turn something else on like right away. It's like any sort of technology implementation. It takes time, right?
Mhm.
So that's like the first thought I had on that. The second thought is I have a point of view where work for humans isn't going away. AI is actually kind of a commodity for all businesses, meaning that all businesses could potentially have access to ChatGPT or Glean or whatever these things are. The thing that makes the AI really unique and useful and powerful in organizations is actually the coupling of the AI with the human beings that you have in your business. Because the humans are like the unique flavor, the thing that that differentiates how AI gets utilized, adopted, integrated, built, whatever into your organization. And that is and humans are not commodities in any way, shape, or form, which is why we're so beautiful because everybody is unique and messy and all of the things that come with it, right? But there is so I don't necessarily think again they're like a one for one. Like certainly certain roles will be massively changed and disrupted in some ways, but going into the idea of how do we future-proof the HR organization, I see AI as like a massive enabler to a function that has always been traditionally resource constrained. So it's, oh, wait, we still have to do this foundational body of work, which is like keep the lights on work, but how can we have AI do that stuff so that the human beings that are in our department and our function are actually able to do the strategic, highly valuable work that can actually propel a business forward much more strategically. I think it's like a massive opportunity, but I don't necessarily think it's like a zero sum game, like in the sense of we embed all this AI and then we just have like budgets getting decimated. I think that's a pretty dangerous, honestly, uninformed point of view. It's not to say that we won't have cost savings because we will for sure. In terms of maybe you don't like add as many roles in the future because of efficiencies or whatnot. But I still think there's always going to be a space for like how humans will interact with technology. That's been the motion for the past, like since we've had technology.
Yeah, and arguably that's been the evolution of the function, right? Because it used to be the benefits function where it's by definition administrative, like the things
Yeah.
that you just put in that layer of just
Yeah.
saying that, you just can, it's not the human side at all and evolved to HR and people like slowly and
Yeah.
subtly over time. What, so it is not a zero sum game maybe, but then there are definitely some skill sets, right? And activities that'll be more expressed
Yeah.
in the future.
Sure.
So what do you think those are for folks in HR who are looking to
Mhm.
future-proof their careers as they're thinking about experiences or skill sets they should really try to gather? I assume one of them would just be trying to be AI curious and seeing how it can do something in whatever role they're in. But anything beyond that, if you think about the actual roles that are going to be expressed more often than not in the future?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the ability to interact with and know how to be really strategic with AI as again like a tool or is going to be huge. But I really think that juxtaposing the technology with the deeply human skill sets is where people are going to you'll never be able to replace that. So things like coaching as an example, right? Yes, there are AI coaches and Joe Chabo has one, right? However, there is so much nuance in a conversation. The ability to read facial expressions, the ability to like understand body language, the emotional complexity of a conversation is something that humans have been wired through millions of years of evolution to really understand in a way that I just don't think machines understand yet, right? So it's like those deeply human things. Also, communications, right? We're going to have a lot of work that gets automated, but we need to still bring people along, inspire them, create a vision, create excitement, like all of those things that, again, evoke these emotions in people. Those are deeply human things that human beings are uniquely like designed to do, right? So like those types of skill sets. Also, just the ability to really understand a business and what we're trying to accomplish and then be able to filter that through the lens of people. I mean, that's just the strategic mandate of an HRBP or someone in the people organization. That is always going to be a skill set that I think is helps you interpret and contextualize what is important to the business through then the people lens. So those are, just skill sets that I would say are very future proof for any HR person.
Got it. So then if you were going to take that point of view and imagine you're talking to someone who's just coming out of college and is looking to get into the function, what advice would you have for them?
I would say get off of your phone and meet people in person and have human conversations. Because and the reason I say that is because so much of what emerging generations are doing is like digital, which is great. That's just the way that they interact, but we cannot lose our our skills for interacting as human beings. We can't lose that way of connecting, the way of knowing people deeply on a very like, personal level outside of technology, and that there's again, it's so rudimentary, but I do worry about people's ability to navigate, like, social situations, like, situational context, things like that, because of the influx of the use of technology and how some of the earlier generations are interacting. Yeah, so that would actually be, I would say, like, really make an effort to get to know people and to connect in real life.
Yeah, I think there's a real challenge there because we were talking about L&D and transforming an existing organization and employees and who are like in my mind that I'm thinking about like mid-career folks because there's a lot of context that you're bringing and value to the organization, just
Mhm,
knowing how work works and also how this company works. And then you're investing in transforming them. But then the pipeline from high school or college to the first jobs, it's really being disrupted a little bit. And there's a little bit of a gap here, both from what I can tell, like AI tool usage leading to lower demand for entry level kind of
mm.
work in a lot of functions. But also the other side is a bigger gap in preparedness from college or high school because of their social reasons, but also just the uh, COVID is a part of it. But that's a whole gap that's also impacting how we're going to be able to train get the next set of recruits, right? We're going to be relatively like AI native and tech
Mhm.
native and went through the COVID kind of shift. But maybe that's a whole other deeper conversation
Ye
about the pipeline.
yeah, for sure, and I'll just say one quick thing about that because I do have a high school age daughter, and it's been so fascinating to just kinda see how she interacts, like, in an educational setting and with friends and things like that, but I will say I'm very hopeful about this next generation coming in because they will be the ones that are disrupting and reframing, "Oh, we've always worked this way, but there's, like, actually a better way or a different way." So I think that they're going to juxtapose a lot of the historical, traditional ways of working with this new innovative ways, and I think if we can actually figure out a way to combine these 2 sort of way different things, like, we can maybe extract the best of both worlds and provide, like, this, like, mentorship and, sort of sage wisdom with a lot of, like, disruptive creativity for how to do things way differently. I think that could be, like, really, like, explosive in a good way. Like, it could be a little messy and stuff like that too, but I think it could be really interesting. So, we'll see, jury's still out, but, yeah, I have a front row seat to that here at home.
There you go. I guess mine's coming up. I'm behind on that journey. But I think that's a great optimistic note as any to end on.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Lauren, if folks want to connect with you or follow your work, is how can they best do that?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. So Lauren
Okay.
Tropeano, I'm the CPO of Docebo. That's probably the best place where, I share my insights and just takes and things like that. So feel free to connect with me, follow me there, and I look forward to just continuing to share some interesting nuggets of information as we continue on this AI transformation journey.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much for this conversation. The many layers that we talked about around the industry itself changing with L&D and how you guys as a product you're thinking about that and leading that, and then at a global company level, you
Mhm.
have a whole shift to being AI enabled and AI native. And we talked about the AI Academy as well as, of course, how you're thinking about that in the HR function itself. And I love these practical guides about translating the vision into, for example, like OKRs. And that's, I guess, an advertisement for rhythmic planning of some kind,
Right.
putting that on paper to force the organization at some scale to move in that direction. And I think we came to some really interesting thoughts around if there are any boundaries around the need for an organization to have an AI academy or enablement of with learning, and maybe there really aren't any. If we can think of so many use cases around for personal use cases and literally in any industry, maybe it pays to have some kind of simple investment, if nothing else, to try to upskill folks in this direction. And it feels like a major direction of what even you're doing in L&D. What is the outcome that you're trying to produce, no matter the industry and the organization? And of course, thank you for your thoughts on the HR function itself, because it's, as you said, the function, change is nothing new, but it continues on. Something is a little bit distinct, like you talked about this time around, and we're all trying to wrap our minds around it. So thank you once again for this
Oh, you're
conversation,
so
Lauren.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for everyone out there following along, this is another episode of Future Proof HR. Good luck as you future proof your own organizations and HR departments. And I hope you found this conversation as valuable as I did. See you on the next one. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Future Proof HR. If you like the discussion, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on the platform you're listening to or watching us on. Or share this with a friend or colleague who may find value in the message. See you next time as we keep our pulse on how we can all thrive in the age of AI. Hey, it's Thomas again. One quick question before you go. Are you and your HR team tired of answering the same employee questions again and again in Slack? If yes, our Cleary AI-powered Slack bot is here to help. It takes routine employee requests and answers it automatically while freeing up time for you to take on more important tasks. At the same time, it automatically builds up an HR knowledge base as you go. It's quick to set up, works right in Slack, and you can try it for free. Just head on over to gocleary.com/HR-chatbot to install it. It's again, gocleary.com/HR-chatbot. Thanks again.